Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Side Quests. My name is Greysun Morales, and I am currently a guides writer, or lead guides editor, I should say, for GameRant.com. I also have bylines over at twinfinite.net, where I worked as the features editor. So right now I just write tons of guides every single day at GameRant. But yeah, that's me. But I'm not here to talk about my work experience or my career choices. I'm here to talk about Kid Icarus Uprising. Yes, Kid Icarus Uprising. So that game released on the 3DS way back in 2012, March of 2012 to be exact. And it was a sequel. Actually, it was a third game in the Kid Icarus franchise, but there was such a huge gap between this game and the second Kid Icarus game, which was Of Myths and Monsters, and that came out in 1991. So literally from 1991 to 2012, there was no Kid Icarus game at all. And yeah, Kid Icarus Uprising sort of came out, developed by Project Sora. It was led by Sakurai, who is also the creative director for Super Smash Bros. He brought Kid Icarus Uprising back to 3DS, almost like a reboot of sorts. But we never got a sequel after that, so I don't know if you would even call it a reboot. But this game means a lot to me as someone who is a big fan of Nintendo and played probably every major 3DS title that came out back then. This game was so much fun, and honestly had no right to be as fun as it was, to be as good as it was. I've tried playing the first Kid Icarus game loads of times just because I like knowing about Nintendo's history, and that game is not okay. I'm not gonna say it's not fun, but it's hard. It's sort of repetitive. It's one of those NES games that are just like you have to use those save states to beat it. For me, it's not good. It's not a good game. But yeah, it's an old game, so maybe it was good when it came out. I'm not sure. But Kid Icarus Uprising, sort of like a reimagining of the series. Throwing Pit back into the spotlight, throwing in Palutena and a bunch of other characters that are based around like Greek mythology. And man, this game does such a good job at not only honoring, like it honors the history of this series. The game makes a lot of funny jokes and breaks the fourth wall a ton of times. There's like a piece of dialogue at one of the first levels of the game where Lady Palutena sort of explained to Pit about what's going on and who Medusa is. And he's like, "Who's Medusa? Who's that?" And since the gameplay would be at the top of the touchscreen, or the top of the screen, Lady Palutena would show a picture of old school Medusa from the NES game on the bottom screen, and it's just stuff like that made me laugh and just sort of appreciate this game for its sense of humor and its ability to not be afraid of going places. My favorite part of Kid Icarus Uprising is literally just probably the writing and the character moments, because there are tons of funny moments. Like these characters and the voice acting are incredible. There are so many funny quips that Pit throws out, and not even just him, but Palutena as well. And they have this really funny back and forth between each other, this banter that I always appreciated. And one of the big reasons why Kid Icarus Uprising was sort of I wouldn't call it a black sheep or anything. It got fairly decent reviews, I think, critically, but the game had terrible controls. The game launched with if you bought the game physically, it came with a 3DS stand to hold your system in place in the air, because you would use the stylus with your right hand and you have to hold the left side of the 3DS with your left hand, so you can aim to shoot, and you're also using the stylus as well, so your hand becomes cramped almost very quickly. And this game was not fun to play over in long periods of time. I would play it for half an hour before my hands would start to like cramp up, and it's a shame, because behind that messy control scheme there was such a good game there. Well, there is a good game there. I'm not going to say was, because it is a good game, and the controls sort of just held it back from other people experiencing it. And just because Kid Icarus wasn't really a well-known franchise, it still isn't. I feel like the only reason some Nintendo fans know who Pit is because of Super Smash Bros. And not because of Kid Icarus Uprising. But man, while the controls were bad, the combat was so much fun. You had these shooter missions that were similar to Star Fox. They're on rails, and you're controlling Pit and flying around and using different abilities and stuff. And while you're flying, there's usually some conversation going on, either with Pit and Palutena, or Pit and whatever enemy he's about to face, or whatever boss he's currently trying to track down, or whatever. These are always hilarious and really good, and just kind of keep the action going. You know, it has these moment-to-moment action sequences that just like are just so much fun to go through. And the game, like throughout the entire campaign, like it never stops being fun. It never stops being enjoyable. It's always like an exciting, thrilling adventure roller coaster ride with really neat cutscenes, very like highly produced. You know, coming from Nintendo, you know, they don't really do games with voice acting too often. You know, at least full voice lines. But yeah, the gameplay was so much fun, and it had so much variety. This game also had the what is it called? It's like a difficulty slider, which they added to Super Smash Bros. I think after Kid Icarus Uprising. So essentially, you can increase the heat of whatever level you're on, which is like the difficulty. And the higher you put the difficulty, the more rewards that you'll get if you can complete the level. And if you die, I think you have to lose something. So it's like a risk reward sort of thing where you're betting that, hey, I bet I can beat this level on the highest difficulty. But if you don't, you're gonna lose something. And then and something else, one last thing I wanted to bring up before I peace out, but Kid Icarus Uprising had a multiplayer mode, and it was so much fun. If I remember correctly, it was 4v4, so you'd get one team of 4 characters and one team of other 4 players, and you just have to defeat each other and get as many KOs as possible within a time limit, I think. And there were different stages and different power-ups that you can use to kill your enemies. It reminded me sort of a little bit of Splatoon mixed with like a little bit of Mario Kart battle mode mixed with like, I don't know, some action game multiplayer, because you would pretty much just pummel each other and fight each other, and so they would lose their health and get knocked out, and then one team would come out winning at the end. And man, I play this on the 3DS all the time. No disconnections, no lag, no glitching or anything. It ran pretty smooth. To be fair, it didn't look that great. Looking back on it now, it was the graphics were that great, but it was still a lot of fun. And as someone who doesn't play many online games, especially back then, that was something for me that I would go back to constantly. And then I would continue to like replay the story missions over and over again using different difficulties as well, just to unlock more loot and gear and stuff. It was such a fun ride. Kid Icarus Uprising is such an underrated gem on the 3DS, and I just hope that one day we can get a sequel, or just like, you know, just any Kid Icarus game, honestly, on the Switch. I remember after that game came out, Sakurai said that this isn't going to happen again. You know, I don't know how seriously that statement was, like how serious he was about it, but I hope eventually one day Dark Pit and Palutena will come back, because man, that is one of the funnest Nintendo games. One of the best Nintendo games of all time, in my opinion, and one of the best games on the 3DS. So you all should try it out if you have access to that system. And if not, I mean, let's hope for a port, or like I said, a new game or sequel or something. Just because it deserves more love. It's so underappreciated. Thank you everyone for listening to my spiel about Kid Icarus. I hope y'all enjoyed this. This was a fun time. And yeah, happy gaming.